PharmaPal.
You're listening to Bloomscast, the official podcast of Blooms.io, home of the bioactive library for mass spectrometry instant optimization. Let's dive into the latest in natural chemistry, bioactive discovery, and the future of lab innovation.
Today we're tackling something, well, really widespread, using traditional medicine during pregnancy. The World Health Organization estimates that for a huge chunk of the global population, maybe 65 to 80%, traditional medicine is their main healthcare source.
That's enormous.
Right. And it seems this gets even more common during pregnancy. Lots of people believe natural options are, the safer bet compared to synthetic drugs.
And that desire for natural medicines when pregnant, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? That instinct to be extra careful during that time.
Yeah.
What's really striking, though, is just how common it is worldwide and, well, the deep cultural roots behind it.
Exactly. So our mission with this deep dive is to really dig into the research. What does it actually tell us about the safety and any potential risks of using these traditional medicinal plants during pregnancy?
Right.
You shared some great sources, and we want to get you, the listener, up to speed quickly, thoroughly, but, without making your head spin.
And we've looked at a really interesting mix of material for that. We've gone through academic studies, some unpublished work too, documents, even doctoral theses, all from 2010 to 2019.
Okay.
Plus, we examined a big literature review. It analyzed, I think, 35 different relevant studies on this very topic.
Okay, well, let's unpack this then. One of the first things that jumps out is just how many pregnant women globally use natural medicines. But then you see this real lack of solid information about them.
That's a crucial starting point. While the WHO gives that broad picture, our sources show it's really prevalent specifically during pregnancy. Though the exact numbers, they do vary quite a bit. Depends on where you are, cultural background, things like that.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is looking at specific examples, like
in rural West Virginia, yeah. Peppermint for nausea, cranberry juice for UTIs. Simple things, often.
Right, and then you look somewhere like Australia, and pregnant women there might use raspberry leaf, golden seal, ginger, echinacea, even St. John's wort. We also saw reports of high use in the Tumpat district of Malaysia.
Right, and North and South America too. Indigenous peoples have a really long history using these remedies.
So you see this pattern, right? Pregnant women seeking out traditional treatments. But, and this is the key thing our sources point out, this widespread use often happens without a strong scientific evidence base. Does it work? And critically, what are the downsides?
And it's not just a gap in the scientific papers. It seems the women using them often don't have much info either.
Exactly.
There was that point from a study in Norway really striking. Over 78% of pregnant women said they had little information about natural medicines.
78%?
Yeah. Even though almost a third of them, 31.3%, had actually used them during their pregnancy.
That just raises huge questions about informed choice, doesn't it? And the potential for things to go wrong without meaning to. Our sources are pretty clear. There are numerous concerns being raised about using traditional herbal remedies during pregnancy. It's not saying they're all bad, but it highlights a real need for better understanding. Evidence-based guidance.
So let's dive into some of those potential health risks then. Because it's definitely not as simple as natural automatically equals safe, is it?
Not at all. That's a huge misconception. What's fascinating and maybe a bit scary is just how complex plants are chemically.
Right.
They contain this huge variety of compounds, phytochemicals, and these can have really varied biological effects. Some might be helpful, sure, but others can actually be quite risky, especially during pregnancy.
And the big risks that kept popping up in the research were things like stimulated uterine contractions.
Yes.
And the potential for abortion, for miscarriage.
Exactly. Some natural medicines have been directly reported to cause pregnancy loss, either by triggering those contractions or by messing with the delicate hormone balance needed to maintain a pregnancy.
That's a powerful reminder. These aren't just, gentle teas. They have real biological impact.
They really do.
And it sounds like whether a plant is safe might even change depending on the trimester.
That's another really important layer of complexity. While some traditional knowledge systems do recognize this, like that example from Tanzania, where certain herbs are okay during labor but not in the first trimester.
Okay.
For most plants, we just don't have that specific trimester by trimester safety information from scientific studies. It makes giving clear advice really difficult.
And another thing that stood out was consistency, or the lack of it. It's not like a pharmacy drug where each pill has exactly X milligrams.
Precisely. Standardization is a major issue. Traditional medicine production often doesn't have those same strict quality controls you see with pharmaceuticals.
So the dose could be all over the place.
Exactly. You can get huge variations in the chemical composition, the potency, even contamination. That quantitative and qualitative difference makes it even harder to predict effects or assess risks reliably.
Okay, this is where it gets really specific and frankly, quite eye-opening. The research included a table, lots of detail on specific plants and reported effects, especially abortifacient activity. It really drives home the potential power here.
It certainly does. Let's look at a few. Plumeria rubra, you might know it as frangipani, used in India, Mexico.
Right.
An animal study in rats found an alcoholic extract had 100% abortifacient activity. 100%.
Wow. And toxicity.
Interestingly, at the dose tested, they didn't report other toxicity signs in the rats.
Oh, okay. What else?
Then there's Indigofera trifoliata, grows in the Carolinas, India, Australia, Vietnam. An alcoholic extract showed over 92% abortifacient activity in rats. And again, no toxicity reported even at high doses in that study.
It really challenges that whole natural is gentle idea.
Absolutely. Take Phytolacca dodecandra, used in parts of Africa, also 100% abortifacient activity in rats, this time with an aqueous, a water-based extract.
Any side effects noted there?
Yes, at higher doses, they saw things like sleepiness, shivering, excessive urination, but no deaths reported at the tested dose in those animals.
We also saw mentions of others. Acaranthes aspera, found worldwide.
Yep, reported abortifacient properties.
And Ailanthus excelsa from Sri Lanka and India. Stem, bark, leaves, all implicated.
Right, and Aristolochia indica from southern India, Sri Lanka roots and stems reported to have those effects too.
Quite a list.
It is. And then there's Areca catechu, betel nut, common in the tropical Pacific, Asia, East Africa.
Ah, yeah.
The advice is to avoid it. Its laxative effect might potentially stimulate abortion. And one study in goats actually showed fetal death and tissue damage.
That's serious. And the list keeps going. Bambusa vulgaris, a type of bamboo.
Showed 100% abortifacient activity in rabbits. And Senna alata, same result in rats, 100% abortifacient activity with an aqueous extract.
Any toxicity with those?
Not reported at the tested doses in those specific studies, though Senna alata did cause diarrhea and tiredness as side effects in the rats. It just emphasizes the sheer variety and potency. We also saw Abrus precatorius, the Jequirity bean leaves, pods, roots, seeds, all considered abortifacient.
Right.
And Ricinus communis castor bean, historically used to terminate pregnancies, induce labor, but it can have adverse effects.
We can't forget rutagravulans, rue either. It showed abortifacient activity in mice.
And Moringa oleifera also reported to have that activity. It's a long list, and it really underscores the need for extreme caution and, frankly, a lot more rigorous research.
Absolutely. And beyond just the abortifacient risk, the sources detailed other potential dangers too.
They did. For example, peppermint, mentha piperita. High consumption is considered unsafe in early pregnancy. Because it has emmenagogue activities, it can stimulate menstruation.
Okay. And fenugreek, Trigonella phonum graecum.
That one needs care. It can lower blood sugar, which might be an issue. And there were potential links in animal studies at high doses to serious birth defects like hydrocephalus, anencephaly, spina bifida, even fetal growth retardation and neurobehavioral changes in mice.
Wow. What about valerian? Often used for sleep.
Valeriana officinalis. Traditionally contraindicated, actually. Animal studies hint it might lead to fetal zinc deficiency in the second trimester.
Which could increase the risk of
neurobehavioral defects, potentially.
Right. Then there's Vitex agnes castus. Its hormonal effects, progesteronic and estrogenic, might actually increase the threat of miscarriage.
Counterintuitive, perhaps, but yeah. And black cohosh, Simicifigo racemosa. Traditional use by Native Americans. Some research linked leaf extracts to spontaneous bleeding, though the evidence seems a bit contradictory.
But the raw seeds are definitely a concern.
Yes, raw seeds are a concern during pregnancy.
And golden seal, Hydrastis canadensis.
That's generally contraindicated in pregnancy and lactation, uterine stimulant effects.
Even things we think of as common, like garlic, Allium sativum.
Likely safe in normal food amounts, yes, but excessive consumption might increase risks of pregnancy loss, uterine contraction, even hemorrhage.
Okay, and aloe vera.
The topical gel is generally seen as safe, but the aloe vera latex, the part taken internally, should be avoided. potential uterine contractions, toxic effects.
That literature review you mentioned really seemed to crystallize some of these risks, linking specific herbs to toxic effects on the fetus.
It did. It flagged several commonly used herbs. Ginger, for example, often used for nausea, right?
Yeah.
But the review noted high doses might be abortifacient and teratogenic, cause birth defects. So caution advised, especially with threatened miscarriage.
Right.
Radix trichosanthes, or trichosanthin, was shown to be toxic during pregnancy, leading to abortion.
What about echinacea, often used for colds?
Some species raise concerns about potential malformations, that safety really isn't proven during pregnancy, and prolonged intake was linked to intrauterine growth restriction, babies not growing well.
And chamomile, another one often seen as gentle.
Potentially not so gentle, linked possibly to miscarriage, preterm labor, even enlarged kidneys, and unspecified cardiac malformations in the fetus. It has those emmenagogue and uterine stimulant properties. Salvia fruticosa. Large doses linked to miscarriage. Reproductive and genetic toxicity is reported too. Fennel was actually suggested to be contraindicated entirely during pregnancy due to limited safety data.
Right, and Isilambezo, that's South African traditional medicine.
Noted as having properties potentially harmful to both mother and baby. Kratom, Mitragina speciosa, use was associated with neonatal abstinence syndrome withdrawal in newborns.
Gosh, it goes on. Teucrium polium.
Potential for serious postpartum liver toxicity in the mother, and podophyllum resin, flagged as extremely toxic and teratogenic, can cause intrauterine death, neuropathy,
Even chewing areca nut.
associated with adverse birth outcomes. Lower birth weight, shorter birth length, even a lower rate of male newborns. It's quite a list of potential harms.
It really is.
The review also mentioned digitalis possibly inducing earlier labor, Myzotank, a Chinese herbal product, reported to have abortion effects, other herbs like boldo, balm mint potentially teratogenic.
And links to low birth weight again.
Yes, with digitalis, acelambezo, betelquid, and that list of herbs potentially linked to abortion was extensive. Radix trichosanthes, ginger, boldo, fennel, balm mint, GQD, a specific formulation, saffron, sage, golden cochula, peppermint, cumin.
And preterm birth links too.
Almond oil and heavy licorice consumption were associated with that.
Plus, it wasn't just the plants themselves, right?
Right.
Contamination is an issue.
A very important point raised in the review. Potential contamination with pesticides, toxic heavy metals,
Right.
and specific compounds in some plants, like coltsfoot, Tussilago farfara, might affect hepatic vein thrombosis in newborns.
It all just paints a picture of, well, complexity and potential risk. It really underscores that need for solid research and reliable information.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. To look at this from a slightly different angle, the sources also included a fascinating comparative study from Lao PDR,
Yes.
giving some real insight into the cultural context, how plants are actually used in practice around pregnancy and childbirth in specific communities.
Right. This study focused on the Bru, Sek, and Krai ethnic groups in Laos. It looked at plant use during pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum recovery, and infant healthcare.
And what did they find?
They documented 55 different plant species being used across these stages, but the vast majority, over 90%, were used specifically for postpartum recovery.
So after the birth, that really highlights how culturally important that postpartum period is in Southeast Asia, doesn't it? Things like confinement, special diets, steam baths, mother roasting.
Exactly. Those practices are key. And interestingly, the study found that using plants during pregnancy and childbirth actually seemed less common among these groups.
Less common. Why?
Well, some villages explicitly reported avoiding traditional medicine, alcohol, even modern meds during pregnancy, possibly because they perceived a risk to the baby.
That's quite a contrast to the heavy use postpartum.
It is. It suggests a different cultural framing of risk during pregnancy itself in these communities.
Those steam baths and mother roasting practices sound intense, using lots of plants.
Yes. 26 of those 55 species were used in these heated applications, likely involving plants rich in essential oils given the heat.
Okay.
And the study concluded that this knowledge, which plants to use, when, how, is a really important part of the traditional knowledge held by women in these communities.
So it's deeply embedded in their culture and passed down.
Precisely. It shows how plant use is tied up with beliefs and practices around childbirth and recovery.
So bringing all this together, thinking about everything we've discussed, what are the main takeaways for you, the listener, from this deep dive?
Well, I think the first big thing is the contrast. Traditional medicines are clearly very widely used during pregnancy globally, but our scientific understanding of their safety and effectiveness is often, frankly, quite limited. We've seen many plants contain potent compounds.
Compounds that can cause real problems. Abortifacient effects, teratogenic effects.
Exactly, potential negative impacts.
Yeah.
And it's not simple. Whether an herb is safe isn't always clear-cut.
Right, it can depend on the dose, the trimester, the individual's health.
All those factors. And as that Lao PDR example showed, the cultural context really shapes how and when these plants are used, or sometimes avoided.
So given all that complexity, all that potential risk, what's the bottom line?
The bottom line is really about being informed and being cautious. This deep dive, I hope, shows you the importance of seeking out evidence-based information.
And talking to healthcare professionals.
Absolutely. Having those open conversations to get advice tailored to your specific situation is crucial. Don't just assume natural means safe.
And that leads us nicely into our final thought for you to ponder. Given this incredibly long history of traditional medicine and its continued use by so many people during pregnancy, what kind of research do you think is most critical now? How do we bridge that gap between valuable traditional knowledge and rigorous scientific understanding? What's needed to really ensure the safety and well-being of pregnant individuals and their babies everywhere while respecting that traditional context?
That's the big question, isn't it? Definitely something to think about.
It certainly is.
Thanks for tuning in to Bloom's Cast, brought to you by Blooms.io. Stay curious, stay connected, and we'll see you next time on the frontier of natural product innovation.
PharmaPal.